Hello and welcome
Hi guys.
to the Tribunal, aka the Power of Three for all intents and purposes. Yes,
The rule
Yep.
of three.
the rule of three. What did I say?
The power of three.
The rule of three, which is when three are gathered, we have a party, huh, girls?
And always.
I'm Dani Darling, she, her,
I'm Jacqui Blue.
And I'm Nikki Nik.
and we are going to be discussing the Oscar Best Actress nominations.
Yes,
Yep.
our predictions.
Our predictions for the nomination list as the nominations have not come out just yet. So we will go around and each say one actress that we champion and we all discuss to put on our list, our tribunal list of best actresses, and then we will maybe play the power of three with the last two and say if we all agree for the last two, those are the final five, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
just kind of discuss the list. Okay. Who would like to go first?
I thought we were gonna start with the lighthearted Beyonce.
Yes, let's start with lighthearted Beyonce. Go for it.
We can't forget the queen. Speaking of rule of three, who ruled the world? Beyonce.
Yes.
She has taken Christmas and the holiday season by storm with her beautifully rendered, elegant white cowboy Carter
Extravaganza.
extravaganza, baby.
She really did it. She's made sure to, and I've noticed how she makes sure to get the right placement every time. Like the last big thing she did was the Super Bowl, wasn't it? When
Mhm.
she announced the tour of the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
then she announced her country album release, the Super Bowl.
I super wanted a commercial.
Yeah, it had her own
Yeah.
commercial at the Super Bowl to announce the country album, and now she did the big country album. Do you think that she will do a tour, or do you think she gave us that? We'll do.
No, I think what that was a quick snapshot into what that tour would have been and could have been for those who like to dream. I don't think she's getting on that horse and going around to the city near you.
No.
I feel like that's all we're going to get in terms of a performance
Live
visual of,
performance of that album.
but
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that it was wonderful because it was that she gave us something we can look back on it and say she covered the highlights of the album
She did.
and did it beautifully. So I was gagged, gooped, gathered.
What was the best?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually like the intro. Texas Hold'em, or I'm sorry, 16 Carriages. Um, at the very beginning, I didn't like it very much, but
Mm.
by the time the album came out, I was starting to appreciate it just because she talks about life on the road
Mhm.
Mm.
and the stresses and the loneliness and all that. So that has
Mm.
become my anthem, honey. So the fact that she did all that while she was riding a horse, and riding a horse is a sport. Like
Mhm.
it takes physical
Yes.
power. Like you're going to be out of
Mm.
breath riding a horse if you do it for an extended period of time. And you could tell that it took a lot of control for her to keep riding that horse and to sing the way she did. And she killed it. She nailed it. I
100%.
don't think
Yes.
anybody else could have done that.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
So I like 16 Carriages.
16 Carriages was so good. My favorite part was, and this was the part where it seemed like when you see like white people see Beyonce reactions and stuff, or like the little kids, you see little toddlers dancing around. But then when she gets to that part where she's like staring down the barrel of that gun, man, I shot you down. And she's walking towards the thing, and then she goes bounce on the hit dance, and then like, everybody's like, oh my gosh, like I like those transitional prelude
Mm-hmm.
type moments where she pops in that extra little song that we didn't think she was gonna get to sneak in there and she does it. And I just
Mhm.
when she gets tender and then revs it right back up, that's my favorite part where she's walking towards the camera and singing that
Mm-hmm.
part. I mean, you can just I just felt it.
Yeah.
How about you, Jack?
I liked Blackbird. I liked getting to see the other four girls and, like see their faces and hearing their different voices. And I would have loved to hear more and be able to see them, but I know it was just a medley. I love Sweet Honey Buckin' too. I felt like there was something weird when the beat dropped though, like in the sound right at that part, because
It
it wasn't
was.
hitting hard as it hits in my car with the bass turned all the way up. So there was something going on there with Buckin'. But I also thought the collaboration, seeing her play a little bit with Post Malone, I was wondering
Mhm.
what kind of dynamic they'd have performing together, but it was cute. You could
Cute.
tell they, had a shy little flirtation going, with the truck and the jeans and so
Mhm.
I liked seeing her with other performers too. That's not, Destiny's Child.
Obviously the bang with the little hanging
Yeah.
banner. I mean,
And Blue Ivy, come on,
So
pure
she is
bliss.
cute.
There's so much to
so
discuss.
cute. Ugh,
Yeah.
But
I
let's
love it.
circle
I
back
love
to the
seeing.
actresses because there are some singers in our group also.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, speaking of singers, I guess I'll start out with Angelina Jolie and Maria.
Mhm.
And that was directed by Pablo Larraín. And
Mhm.
it is the story of Maria Callas, who is the only prima donna opera singer that I can even think of. If you think of an opera singer who is not a modern vocalist, she's the only person that I ever grew up really knowing about. Her and Leontine Price are the only two that I've ever heard of. But in terms of the performance
Mhm.
that Angelina delivered, I thought that it was very Oscar worthy. I think she definitely deserves to be in the top five. And I
Mhm.
think that her performance definitely should land her in that spot because when you're performing as like a singer, what you really have to do is break down what the experience of singing is for that singer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like we're talking about Maria Callas and what she feels when she sings and how to convey that because you're playing her. So Angelina did a really good job, I felt, and I watched a video of her talking about the role, and she was talking about how, playing, desperate, disenfranchised, addicted, those things are easy peasy. That's her wheelhouse. But getting up
Mhm.
there and actually having to sing, she said she took 2 months of voice lessons. And at first, the only thing she's working on, of course, we know would be posture and breathing. She didn't do any singing at first, was working on that. And so she's getting to a point where she has to sing in front of all these people. And I remember reading that she said that Brad Pitt had made her feel like she couldn't sing. Did you know that? Like he had said
Mm-mm.
something kind of disparaging
Mhm.
about her singing voice. So she had kind of stopped kind of openly singing. She loved to sing before, and this was her kind
Mhm.
of circling back and like almost like a revenge role, I felt like, because,
Yeah.
you know,
I read that as well, and I feel like that's really great for her publicity and for her campaigning for this role. I agree that she deserves a role or deserves a place in the nominations. But personally, being an opera singer myself, I will say you can't talk about Maria Callas without one of her other top rivals, which is Renato Tebaldi, who was the Italian antithesis of this Greek goddess, and
I
they
read
had
about
this
her.
Italy versus Greece
mhm.
Mhm.
really a tight race in who was the top prima donna of that time.
Oh, she was a
And
singer during that.
she had competition with other women in her personal life with Jackie, with
Mhm.
Onassis, and then in her professional life with Renata. So like she just was constantly couldn't be that girl because there was some other, person who was vying for what she had. So I feel like that particular frustration in her life came through with Angelina, but I
That's
do
correct.
kind of scoff a bit at her saying she studied for several months on how to sing opera. Listen, it takes years
Yes,
of
very
training,
much.
and the issue that she portrays so beautifully is the end of end of her career, kind of almost what's going on with Celine Dion, and reconciling with what do you do if you are a singer and that is your first love. When you open your mouth and sing, people just know this voice, and then that's gone. She can't produce that anymore. She had lost all this weight. She had a bunch of grief and trauma, may or may not have miscarried a baby that, so like there's all of this, that backstory that contributed to the decline of her voice. And I think it's appropriate to get a non-singer, maybe even a bad one. I can't say. We don't hear Angelina on her own,
No.
but it sounded like a struggle bus opera singer. And I think whatever they did to mix Angelina's real voice in there to muddy the callous tone worked to make it feel like it's not quite there, and to make her second guess what's happening. I have a
Mm-hmm.
world-class
Yeah.
instrument.
The
He said
sound
that
So
editing would
it's
be.
her singing, but then they lace Maria over it. So we're
yes,
hearing
and
both
you
of
can
them blended.
tell.
It's
You can,
AI.
yeah, it's very weird because, yeah, because you can hear
What
Maria
she was
cutting
saying was
through.
that her singing while you're crying, and that's what I wanted to talk about too, was like,
Oh, it's so hard. You get like a
yes,
numb in your throat.
exactly. It
Mm.
closes up your throat. So I think it
Mhm.
was her first time realizing, okay, I have to really be singing during these scenes, whether they're going to use the vocals from that or not, and be emoting. And so at the end, she's doing the VC Darte and she's crying and she's clawing. And it's like she's got to figure out how to make that scene happen and still be reasonably singing. Because if you're crying, you're not going to be singing. No
Yeah.
opera singer is really up there crying and singing at the same time like that. So she did great.
Mhm.
Yes. And there is some trick of the camera to
Hmm.
disguise some of the chest breathing, which is
Yes.
really,
Well,
but
and
overall, kudos,
I'm
bravo.
gonna take up for her on that because a lot of actors and actresses uh do a deep dive into whatever their role uh, needs,
Yeah, like
and it's only a
method
couple
acting.
months, but they it's an intense session where they learn what they need to know to
Hmm.
replicate it. And I
Hmm.
mean, like when people learn how to box or
Hmm.
taekwondo or like a number of things that people, oh, I took
Hmm.
it for a couple months and they feel like they're experts now. I mean, you could say the
Yeah.
same thing for all those, but as long as
Hmm.
it comes out on camera well, that's all that matters.
Yeah. And,
I wanted
yeah.
to give a shout out. One of my favorite parts of the movie was the intro.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I read that she was singing, but they don't play her singing. It's just Maria singing at the
Hmm. At
beginning.
the
Hmm.
beginning, yeah.
Um, but just watching the emotions on her face while she's saying that song in a close up,
Hmm.
Hmm.
it felt so personal
Hmm.
Hmm.
and intimate. And I felt like it was a good intro to what we could expect. And I didn't know anything about Maria Callas. Like, I heard her name once or twice. I mean, I know you guys like opera. I didn't really get into opera as much to know
She's the
opera singers' names.
aria in Philadelphia. So when La Mama
Oh,
Morta, when
Oh,
Denzel is
yeah.
being
that's
explained
her.
by the character played by Tom Hanks
I love
about
that
this
scene. I
story,
just
and
got
he's telling
chills.
what happened. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's Maria. That's her voice.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But
And did
you
you
yeah,
know
heard,
that she's very nearsighted, so she couldn't see when she was on stage. They said that played
yeah,
a huge part in how she was able to transform, not see the audience because you can't see nothing. She's very
mhm.
nearsighted.
And they
yeah.
said that she was not overly emotive in her singing. She let her voice do a lot of it. So that's the magic of movies too, is that we needed to see that in Angelina conveying this emotion. But if you were to watch Maria singing that, what was on the recording, you probably would see a lot less because she's working so hard to get it to come out vocally.
She's actually
Mm,
very emotive. I saw live the documentary on her. She's very emotive, but when she's not on stage, honey, she is
Mm-hmm.
stoic,
Yes.
very stoic. So I
Mm-hmm.
think being able to see some of the things that they were talking about in her personal life, the inner body, the inner workings, things that we wouldn't have seen
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
from
And
interviews or things like that. I thought,
yeah, and I liked a little nuance that she picked up, kind of like a characterization, like where she'd respond to the men around her, like, it's just be like, and
yeah.
so that was kind of like her coy, um, way of active listening, but also still being that diva, not giving away too much, you know.
Yeah, prima
And
donna. That's
so,
prima donna. I
Oh,
mean,
that's the other thing I was going to say. They coined the term diva for her.
yeah.
mhm.
So that's
Which,
where, I mean, she's the original diva,
yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
literally, you know.
And there's a lot that you need to forgive her for in the film. I don't want to do too many spoilers, but she's not, you know, she's not perfect. And you know, she has many shades to her, which is kind of what you expect from divas going forward, you know, from her
Yes.
establishing that,
A lot of
is that
drama.
they are deeply flawed, you know. Um, so I think she deserves to be here. She deserves a nomination.
But what do
Uh,
we think about the fact that she's the only one on the potential list that's already won an Oscar? Do you think that's going to make any difference?
no.
I think that helps her because, like you said, that first scene with the close up and it's in black and white, she looks stunningly beautiful. She's a
Hmm.
starlet in that scene. Like she's everything. Like that's pure Hollywood. And she's got
Mhm.
Hmm.
that. She's already got an Oscar. So I think
Yeah.
she's leaning into that whole thing of being like the kind of
Yeah.
middle-aged, like top of her, you know, top of
Mhm.
her game starlet,
And
as
yeah, if that's not stopping Frances McDormand from taking home, what is she at 3 now? With 2
Mhm.
within like a 3, 5 year period, and then now we have uh Poor Things.
Oh, Emma Stone.
Emma
Emma
Stone.
Stone.
Hmm.
Yeah, winning almost back to back. Looks like, you know, so
Yeah.
I think if it is a factor, it shouldn't be, you know, because it's been decades.
Or if
Yeah.
anything, it'll help her because she won Best Supporting before. So she's never won
Mm-hmm.
Best Actress.
Then a Best Actress, yeah.
But who's
Yeah.
she up against? Who's next?
Let's talk about Mikey Madison. I just saw
Yeah.
Nora like 2 days ago,
Yeah.
and oh my God, like as a girl who lived in Queens for 6 or 7 years, I mean, she was giving Queens honey the
Mm-hmm.
whole way through. Like, and it's interesting because like throughout the movie, it's like the situation is harder for her because of how she's reacting to it,
Mm-hmm.
but she can't help but react that way because deep down she is that, spicy New York Queens girl. And it's bred in her to the point where she's just fiercely feisty, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She did a great job with the accent. I was really impressed. And I just love her. It was my first time seeing her in anything. And right away, I mean, I do feel like the performance is Oscar worthy.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But she worked
I
hard to get that.
absolutely. And I also I second everything you're saying, Nick. I feel like at some point, especially the way people are drawing comparisons to Pretty Woman, you would think that there is supposed to be like a character trajectory or a growth moment where she all of a sudden breaks down and reveals her, you know, Midwestern basic upbringing or something, you know, drops the
Like our
facade of you know, just a hood rat basically, and becomes this enlightened being that's changed by love. And it's like, no, this is, she is from the streets and she is going to be authentically herself the whole way. And
Yeah.
I prefer that. I prefer that she did not have some giant change due to these circumstances that were really happening around her, and juggling her whole life like it was nothing. So you know, the physical demands of the role, I thought she killed it. I see why she is a front runner in the discussion for nominations,
Mhm.
and I think she carried this movie. She
Mhm.
carried
Yeah.
Honora,
Mhm.
um, and so that's kind of what you look for in a Best Actress.
Mhm.
Would someone else have been able to step in? Was that performance essential to the success of the film, and how well is the film doing? She's
Yeah.
Yeah.
ticking all the boxes for
Very
me.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's true. I think it's the same case. It's kind of like with Angelina, only if you're carrying the movie and the movie is Best Picture,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's a
Mm-hmm.
little different than carrying the movie and the mirror. The movie is just highlighting how great Angie is. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
think what
Yeah.
she was able to do is not only be her feisty self. She said she had layers of makeup on her thighs because of the bruising when she would go back and do the earlier scenes before the abduction.
Yeah.
But she would have bruises all over her legs. She had to go in and get that tinsel weaved into her hair every other day by
Oh
the
my
hair,
goodness.
that cool red tinsel she had.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very difficult. And then I loved how you could see the softness. Like I liked the moments where she was putting on her mask and you could see that even though she's got to be hard, she's also like, I'm a study in like this new generation, first of all, like the way she walks
Mm-hmm.
around with her little vape. And then how she's like really nice, like she's really sweet to her people. And she had a really a soft spot for Vanya. And it seemed like even with everything went down after she went to well, I don't want to spoil, but
No spoilers.
right, I don't want to spoil, but despite everything, she still you could see that she had a soft side and she had love to give. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a part of her who always resorted back to what she knows, which is her body as currency. But I think there is something that's still very soft and naive about her in the way
Yeah.
that some of the stuff even went down, which was tender and really special to me in her performance.
Mm-hmm.
And also I feel like and this is the shout out to maybe the one of the reasons why it's being looked at for Best Picture is
Mhm.
because in the beginning, Vanya appears to be the innocent one. And she's like, the more experienced, world weary,
Older.
knows what to expect from the,
Jaded.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
dated. And by the end, it's totally different,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and the fact that they took that and were able to, I mean, it was really, really good storytelling.
That's really
Mm-hmm.
deep to think of it that way. It really is. But very
Yeah,
we recommend you. I bought the movie and I've seen it 3, 4 times now, so
I kind of want to see it
I'll give you
again.
my login, Jack.
You just had to see that ending because when I first asked you about it and you said it was just okay and kind of triggering, but that you had to leave early, I'm like, I wonder if the ending makes the movie.
Yes.
Did you miss
And
the ending?
I missed the
yeah, so
ending,
she had to
yeah.
go back and go see it again. Yeah.
Hmm. Which now
Wow.
it really makes sense. And hopefully we can discuss the end of the movie at some point. But
Maybe, yeah, spoiler edition,
yeah.
breakdown of Honora. For my pick, I'm gonna roll with Demi Moore for The Substance. Um, I think she is third on the lock list, in my opinion. The movie itself is getting a lot of buzz. I
Mhm.
know that the Academy has often um, really been hard on horror and thriller films, but Silence of the Lambs, people. I mean, Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins swept that year. I think it also won Best Film. So when it's good, it's good. And this film has such a strong and interestingly posed message.
Mhm.
It's so gory, over the top. Dennis Quaid is disgusting. Um,
How'd they do that? How'd they do that to him?
he is. And having just seen Baby Girl with Nicole Kidman, I am drawing parallels with this actress of a certain age in Hollywood who is bearing it all
Mhm.
in later years on screen and vying for awards greatness. But in my opinion, Demi edges out Kidman a bit because this movie is very clear in its message and also is very in your face. And I think that where Demi had to go to portray the decline of her
The spiral.
character
Mhm.
was very it was very profound. It was very hard for me to watch because I don't like horror, but I couldn't look away. So like as someone
Right.
who doesn't even like this genre, doesn't appreciate it, I could appreciate this film.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
I think, yeah.
and I agree. I mean, I feel like the fact that it's about the insecurities of being an aging actress, I
Hmm.
mean, it's not a far stretch from what she may be going through in real life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that you have to display that, the vulnerability of that for everyone to see when it might really be your reality
Hmm.
is just, it's
It's
heartbreaking.
probably terrifying as an actor.
Yeah. And she did it. She was brave enough to just put it out there,
Yeah.
you
That's what
know?
I would
Mhm.
say.
She turned a lot of stuff in a couple of years.
That role was definitely, I think, more vulnerable in general. But kudos to Nicole too. I have thoughts there. So,
I
but I
think
would say Demi would be my pick for
Well, I
making
think
it.
what's really compelling about Demi Moore is that she is kind of like has a poise about her, like she's a Scorpio. So like when you're seeing her go through things and like she's very deeply emotional, it seems like, but like very poised. And it seems like in the movie you got to see a little bit of her raw intensity. When she does
Hmm.
that lipstick, that's
It's
the
like,
scene
girl,
everybody's
what?
talking about. And it's just like, yeah, I felt that
Girl,
because
you
you do
good?
get
Because
frustrated with as a performer, as someone who, whether you like it or not, are relying on the opinions of others or the support, the well-wishing, the attention of others, the crowd can be very fickle. And
oh
so I
yeah.
can understand how she felt. Um, and also the wisdom of knowing, that that's something that is going to happen to any girl in that scenario at that age. But it just
Yeah.
was very, very deep to me the way that she was able to show us raw emotion because I think sometimes you are seeing someone playing at emotions, but with Demi, it felt like she was really, really,
She
really in
was really there. And I will also, just more context to her personally in a career. She was the highest paid actress in Hollywood in the 90s. I think she has something like $200 million dollars and has not done a movie before this that made a lot of money. Uh, that I could even think of what she was in last, but that's just like residuals from her divorces
Mhm.
and from all this money she made with Indecent Proposal and G.I. Jane and all of that. But
Yeah.
also, she was ridiculed for doing striptease.
Hmm.
So she was always kind of open with using her body, which is one of the actor's tools. I'm an actor, I teach this to kids. Your body, voice, imagination, and courage. Those are the things that are going to get you an Oscar worthy performance. And she's using her body, even when others were like afraid to, or like, no. I mean, now we see a lot more nudity, but she was shamed, she was shunned, you
Yeah.
know. And
You're right. I
so
remember that.
that coming full circle now with her needing to show all this nudity for this role, and then also her experience with Ashton Kutcher, right? So like
Hmm.
she marries this younger man, he says he's going to be with her forever, he doesn't care about aging, and then he throws her over for the young girl that he was in love with the whole time on that 70s show. So the parallel there between her calling up this substance version of a younger, better self probably resonated with her personally.
Yeah. Especially since
Ugh.
Mila is the spitting, it looks like a young Demi anyway, half the
I
time.
mean, she took it there. So I think for those reasons also, she definitely deserves to be in the conversation and be recognized with a nomination for this role. And it's horror, so we will see. But
I would have liked
uh
to see some interaction between, that's what I would have liked a little more of in the film. Not to say that the film is lacking in anything, but I can't, obviously I don't like horror, but I agree with your take on it. But I think it's interesting that we were getting a little bit of the new next generation too with the younger girl.
mhm.
I don't know who the actress's name is, but um would have been interesting to see them interact with each other.
Yeah, like even if they left notes for each other, I
Something
kind of
like
wish they
that.
had done that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's stuff that on the writing room, notes for the writing room next time, I guess. But
Yeah.
well, let's
Um,
play the rule of three. Is it The Rule of Three,
The
Jay?
Rule of Three, and that actress is Margaret Qualley, by the way.
Marguerite. Okay, got it.
Yeah, she's got a
She's
nomination
great.
for a few things out there for Best Supporting. So
Yeah.
yeah, the movie's doing well.
Hmm.
So what about our other two picks? We now have Honora, Mikey Madison, Maria, Angelina Jolie, The Substance, Demi Moore. Those are our 3 out of 5 predictions for nomination
Hmm.
for Academy Awards this year. So, who else is in the conversation? Should we just list who's left and pick from them? Kind of like who's coming up?
Sure.
Carla
So,
Sophia Gaston.
we still haven't. Yeah, Carla Sofia Gascon, considered a front runner in a lot of polling. Cynthia Erivo, Wicked, Marianne Jean Baptiste, Hard Truths, Nicole
Hmm.
Kidman, Baby Girl. Some people are even throwing out there Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here and Pamela Anderson for The Last Showgirl. I haven't heard Amy Adams with Night Bitch much or Kate Winslet with Lee. So I think we can kind of leave those with the Golden Globes where they will die. But
What about Tilda? Was she still in
mm-mm,
the combo, or she kind of dropped
no.
out too?
I think that movie is just not
I think
giving.
Nicole Kidman is going to edge them out. I would offer her as a potential in the five. What think you, ladies? With Baby Girl.
I think I would probably be more in favor of Nicole Kidman over Carla Sofia Gascon. I'm sorry I said it, but I think Carla Sofia Gascon is going to get in there. And I think
Yeah,
whoever,
and I mean, it's almost a guarantee at this point, the way the buzz that it's gotten and everything.
Amelia Perez,
But
yeah.
talk about why we don't agree with that. I I agree with Jackie, and she said in past discussions that the singing wasn't that great.
I went back
Mm-mm.
and saw it again, and I agree. It's very, maybe she needed 2 months of
Like Maria.
Intense.
Angie get, because
her.
There is a
no
right way and a
shade.
wrong way for an actor to learn how to sing. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
Hmm.
it wasn't, I didn't enjoy any of her songs really.
No.
Um, so that is
That's a
a
bummer.
struggle for me.
I think
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's, and that in a nutshell is why I would not put her on my list personally,
Yeah.
because like you said, with the other ladies, we're seeing that they made the movie. The movie was not what it was without their performances. So
Uh-huh.
if we're looking at Amelia Perez, we're looking at an actress who is doing a stunning job of acting. I think
Yeah.
the acting is beautiful. The one
Yes.
part where the kid is singing about how Amelia smelled like papa,
Hmm.
and
Ah,
she's reacting and crying and kind of just touching, soothing the baby and trying not to say too much and having that all of the emotions all over her face of what it
Yeah.
must feel like to be a
mhm.
father and then transition and be a mother and then the child not know, but you still have those parenting feelings. It was just beautiful. So for that kind of thing, I think acting wise, beautiful. Singing wise, if I'm fast forwarding through only her songs, because I mean, Selena carried.
Yeah.
You were right. I watched it second time. She carried. So
Yeah.
did Zoe.
Yeah.
Zoe looked
Mhm.
amazing in the red, doing her rapping thing and staying in her lane. And I
Mhm.
thought that means that she was the weakest link to me out
Yeah.
of those three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Um, yeah, I agree as well. I mean, I didn't know that Zoe could sing.
Me
Um,
either.
I don't
She
think
did
we've
great.
seen her sing in anything before. And I mean, her voice isn't, golden, but she did a really good
She
job.
did a great job.
She
Hmm
You
sounded
could
great.
tell that she's
Beautiful.
studied, theater and dance and all that.
Mm,
hmm
very
Because that
Um,
scene in the red is physically it was probably really difficult.
hmm
yeah. I think if you just hold up just the performance up to the others in this category, um it's not cutting through, especially since we have another musical on
Yes.
here. And
Cynthia.
Yeah.
Cynthia
Agree.
Erivo,
I ran into somebody who was talking about the movie a couple, like last weekend. I think I was at a Christmas party, and they were saying
mhm.
that, when her first song about meeting a wizard.
Yes.
And even when she first started singing, there was like an inaudible gasp in the theater,
And the
like
theater, yeah.
silent. People were just like, just on the edge of their like, oh my goodness. Like there's good
Yes.
singing, there's pulling it off like Angelina, there's not pulling it off like Sophia
Hmm.
Baston. And then when you
They're
come
doing decently well. Like,
doing decently well like Zoe. But when Cynthia sang, it was like a sigh of relief
yes.
because you knew you were in good hands. You knew that you were
Yes.
hearing possibly the best version of this song that you're going to hear. You knew that you were going to continue to hear excellence from this person. Like as a performer, I
Hmm.
know what it is to feel like it's not going great, to be trying not to have the audience feel that. And I know what it feels like to be like, oh, I'm nailing it. And you know, because of the way the audience is responding. And I
Hmm.
think if she just even had a glimpse of how much audience response she had, I'm sure she knows because we all
She
are
knows because she's
gagged.
kind of arrogant, but um, hey, more power to her.
Yes, every reason to
Yeah,
be.
yeah, I think she is, like you said, giving us the best possible version of these songs that we have grown to love. And no shade to Idina, but this is a master at work here. And I think the delight is how beautifully she is acting the material as well. So not only is the voice gasp worthy and the choices, the melodic choices, the melismas that she's throwing, I mean, it's just like butter.
Chef's kiss.
But then also the acting, the non-singing of it all
Hmm.
is just impeccable, and she carried the movie too. Her and I know it's not best supporting, but the chemistry also that between her and Ariana Grande just was beautiful. And you feel really invested in what happens during her story and her voice and her journey and the green. It's not easy being green, but I hope she gets a chance at the gold. I'd love to see her on that list.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is that our top five, or do we want to sub out Amelia? Are we going to throw Carla Sophia Gaston in there and say whether we like it or not, she'll be there? Or do we say baby girl, Marianne Jean Baptiste might eke out somebody? I think if they eke somebody out, it will be Demi or Cynthia and not Carla,
Yeah.
sadly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I
But the
mean,
Oscars
I
always,
I still think Nicole is gonna make her way in there just with that performance. I mean,
ooh, I saw.
okay, because I
Okay.
mean,
Let me tell you, baby.
it was a lot, and it was a lot in a different way. Like, okay, she's exposing herself in her age and like I was shocked when I saw the first close up of Nicole, and I was like, oh. She not doing no movie makeup, conceal. I mean, it's very little. You get
Mhm.
she's very raw visually, which changes everything to me because you're seeing someone who is, and I think we can explain this part of the story is
Mhm.
has a dominant desire or a desire to be a submissive.
Submissive, yeah.
And that's something that's even more complicated by age and by her status as a powerful woman. And so
Mhm.
it's a complicated kind of thing to be trying to play an older woman who is trying to explore BDSM with a younger man.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, and the thing
But
is, Nicole Kidman, she, almost in almost everything we see her in, she's so polished.
yeah.
I mean, her dress, her hair. I mean, she's always impeccably beautiful in everything she does. Except for
Mhm.
maybe, was it Cold Mountain where she was like a cowgirl or something?
Mhm.
But yeah, so the fact is she's really whittled it down to the basics in this. I would imagine. I haven't seen it yet, but that would be impressive based on what she's done in the past.
I mean, you
I will
really want to
say,
things
I
shame, things like that.
I think she did a great job with this film. Did I think she carried it? Not quite. And here's why. I think they could have gotten another actress of a certain age to do just a comparably as well job. Now, the fella who played her opposite her, Harris, what's his name? Because
He's
I,
British.
he's British.
Yes.
He was very sexy.
Hmm.
He carried the movie for me. Harris Dickinson. He's a star.
He
He
is.
is a star. And
I had a
I'm
little
lightweight
crush. Not
obsessed.
gonna lie.
I'm going to be watching everything he's ever made.
But would
And I
he have
think,
been able to play that with someone else? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think of Julianne Moore when I think of that role, or I think of
but see, she's not much younger than Demi. And I think he could have had that same chemistry with her too. Nicole is 57, Demi is 62. And they both bared it all in these movies.
mhm,
I do, I think that we should
Wait,
celebrate
which one is older? Demi?
Demi.
mhm.
She's 62?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes. And I
Give
do
her the
feel
Oscar.
like
Good Lord.
Nicole does look older than her still.
Yeah.
In the movie and in life, though, I think that's just genetics because you know, to
And
me, that's why
she did
Ashton
earlier with
dated
plastic
her.
surgery, and she took to it better. She made better decisions too. We've talked about that, Nick.
Well, and she kind of aged more. She's a brunette, I don't know what the ins and out of how, I think she may have be mixed with something,
Mm.
you know, but I don't know what her background is. However, they are of similar age. They're within 5 years of each other.
Now, I
So,
wonder
you
if
know,
we are really at a loss because we have not seen Hard Truths.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not available. And so this is the frustration. Like an
It's
asking,
coming out next month.
I know, but next month is the Oscars.
We will have moved on to another top.
That's and I think that if people wait too late, it could really hurt the campaigns. And
Mhm.
Marianne Jean Baptiste is a critical darling. Everybody is like raving over her performance, but if no one gets to see it, that's gonna really suck for her.
I'm excited about the idea of more than one person of color possibly being on the list.
That would be
I mean,
cool.
it's a long shot, but
Well,
Now, what
it,
this
technically,
list?
Carla Sofia Gascon is Latina, isn't she?
Yeah, you got a Latina, if
and
but I really want to see Hard Truths.
Me
Jackie,
too.
could you tell us a little bit about it's about
Yeah, it's a day. I don't know if it's a day in the life, but it's a close look at depressive disorder. And so I think that what we're kind of learning nowadays about mental health and about, the pandemic and how that brought highlighting of mental health problems with people around the world, around the globe. It's a really always timely and evergreen topic to talk about. I mean, who doesn't know someone or struggle themselves with depression? And this woman, Marianne Jean Baptiste, in this film, Hard Truths, is struggling with it herself and portrays it allegedly very beautifully and very rawly and very realistically.
Mhm,
Um, and so I have heard it's a heavy film.
mhm,
It's not like you leave it jumping and skipping, but um, also a really, really amazing turn. And I think it would be a shame, especially because I feel like she is on par with a lot of these performances if
mhm.
she's not considered. But I think if any of the awards would include someone like her, regardless, it would be the Oscars.
So
The
she won.
Oscars are the ones where someone random would be, and that's not like a Golden Globe, darling or already a Hollywood star would
yeah,
eke their way in. So
Kind of like
yeah,
that
and
one
some
movie, but what was the actress who won she won the money and was a alcoholic, and they had her up there as a best
the
actress.
lottery, yep,
Yes,
yeah,
that was so
that
good.
it
And
that
was so
she
good.
was
happened.
She deserved that
unsuccessful.
Oscar.
I didn't see that movie till after the fact, so maybe she will. I hear that there are moments where they find the humor, and as a person who has suffered from depression, I do know that that is the thing where like I'm looking for a performance that I can relate to and a performance
Mm-hmm.
that will talk about how you can find the dry, sad, tragic humor in some of those circumstances you end up in
Mm-hmm.
as a
Yeah.
depressed
Mm-hmm.
person. So I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I'm sad that it's
Yeah.
kind of late.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
All
not
right.
really gone on Pamela Anderson. I don't know what I know that it's about a showgirl.
That's the title. The Last Showgirl.
Yeah. I do want to see that movie though. So
Yeah, I think it'll be good. I don't think that uh she is in danger of upsetting at this point in terms of the Academy Awards, but I'm glad that she's having a great year.
yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think probably the premise is just a little too close to the substance.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the last showgirl, she's obviously an aging, star
Mm-hmm.
who's dealing with the fact that she can't do what she used to do anymore. It's very similar to the substance,
Mhm.
fortunately, and even some aspects of Baby Girl.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's a lot of the same subject this year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, question for you ladies. Of these top contenders that we've discussed, of the films that you've seen, which performance are you still thinking about? Comes up the most for you when you're thinking like, dang, but she did that though.
Ooh, that's hard. I
It's
only
hard
saw
for me too.
Nora 2 days ago, but I'm gonna say Mikey Madison. She really impressed me. As someone who hasn't seen her in anything,
Mm-hmm.
I was really impressed.
I'm gonna go
I'm
with
gonna,
Angie.
you are, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go. It's a tie for me. I think it's Honora, Mikey Madison, because I'm still gagged. I'm still thinking about that movie and
Mhm.
Yeah.
wanting to go back and watch it again. And I'm still like, man, that's so crazy. And I want to rewatch it with what I know at the end now from the beginning. But
Hmm.
also, I was listening to the Wicked soundtrack on the way home from holidays road trip, and this is why a great studio, a great recording, soundtrack recording can work for you,
Mhm.
in the Oscars race, because if all these people's kids are listening to No One Mourns the Wicked,
Oh, and that
all winter
intro.
break,
Oh, ooh.
you're gonna keep
She's
hearing,
gonna stay in your mind.
yeah, the rent free. So I can't not say I'm still thinking about Cynthia Erivo because I'm still listening to
Yeah.
that right now, and it's
That was the
one
best
of the best.
intro ever. That
Ugh.
And to have so much, I mean, the way that story was told, to have so much built up around you. You don't see her at first. You see them burning the witch and the no one burnt, the
Mm-hmm.
first act. So she's got to live up to that big lead up by the time you meet
Mm-hmm.
her. It's just, you're right, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
She's
Mm-hmm.
she's out of
She's
there. She's out of
she's
this
out
world.
there. Yeah. So I think we kind of have our list.
Yes.
Hmm.
Maria, Angelina Jolie, Mikey Madison, Demi Moore,
Cynthia
Sophia
Erivo.
Gascon, and Cynthia Erivo. And
Hmm.
I think we have our front
Short
runners, which
list.
we are kind of thinking might be Mikey Madison, Angelina, and Cynthia would
Mhm.
be who we
Our
think
top.
are at the top of that list. And that's without having seen Marianne Jean
Yeah.
Baptiste in Hard Truths.
Sadly.
Um, Sadly, we
Uh,
still
to
haven't seen, yeah. So
to wrap up, what movie are you girls going to see next?
Um, a complete unknown.
Complete Unknown.
I love me some Timothy Chalamet. I mean, I think the first thing I ever saw him in was The King, that movie on Netflix where he's like a
yeah.
medieval, like Prince Edward or whatever. And I love a
Mm-hmm.
period film. I love history.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, who is this kid? And then I realized like how good he was. And I'm impressed with everything he does. So
Hmm.
I'm excited to see how he introduces Bob Dylan to a new generation of people. because that's an important job. I mean, he's really important in the history of music.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people nowadays don't understand what he stood for, what he was about, don't necessarily know all of his music. And so we
Mm-hmm.
get to find out who he is again through Timothy Chalamet. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, that Bob Dylan pick. I will go see I really want to see Sing Sing next. I want them, A24 has really botched this for reasons unknown. And I hope that it does not hurt its chances with um, being so late to come out to the open public. But the Sing Sing is high on my list. As soon as it comes out, I'm going to see it.
Yeah.
I agree with both of those. Sing Sing. I want to see. I love a musical, so yes. And the
It's
unknown.
not a music.
It's not a
Uh,
musical.
no,
It's
it's
about a
about
musical,
the prison.
but
Sing
aren't they
Sing.
having a singing
They're
thing?
putting on plays.
It's Shakespeare in the incarcerated. It's like a program for inmates
Oh,
to
it's
learn how
Shakespeare.
to theater. Yeah.
Mm.
Even
Which
better.
started in Louisville. A program like that was piloted in
Oh.
Louisville,
I
Kentucky.
mean,
Yeah.
theater therapy is really, really beautiful. So if it is about that, then I'm equally still on board and bought in. Fun fact about Bob Dylan is he's a Taurus and Timothy Chalamet is Capricorn. So as an earth sign, I think he's got a good shot at knowing the inner workings of his personality and machinations. But um,
And
I think I want to see The Last Showgirl now. So I think that's my answer is I'll give Pamela a chance.
yeah,
So that's my question.
I
sure.
also know Timothy is a what is it? A Slytherin,
He is?
like you two ladies. Yep.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness, finally somebody cool.
The
Like
best.
Yeah, I
whenever I
saw him
tell
with a
people
sweater
that, it's
on, and I
like,
was like, "Doth he be a Slytherin?" He's out and proud.
Of
we
course.
get a
I
we
love
get a bad
that.
rep.
Yeah.
But
What
yeah,
about?
it was just kind of intense. That's all.
Hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, girls. Well, I think this was a great um, way to end the year
Hmm.
with the new year coming up just days away. And hopefully next year we'll have a lot more to kiki about.
Yeah.
Yes, more films to discuss, more other things to discuss. And remember, Nomination Friday is January 17th. So that's the day when we will see if all our musings come to fruition,
Sounds so far
who will be
away.
snubbed, who will
It
sneak
does.
in, who will be a surprise. So,
Hmm.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
bye.
Well, guys.
Time.
Bye.